What is up, my peepholes? This is your guy, Kalai, and welcome back to Budget Buys. Now, before I get into the product that I'm going to be reviewing today, I just want to address the fact that I haven't really been uploading recently. And there's a few reasons for that. First off, apparently every single one of my neighbors decided it was time to do construction, so that was fun. Next up, I had a couple of yellow jacket nests decide to settle in the walls of my recording area, and one of those nests breached the wall and decided to invade. For bonus points, I actually have a bee and wasp sting allergy, so that was extra terrifying. But of course, not everything has been bad, because a few weeks ago, I adopted a couple of kittens. And while I love them to death, they are little balls of energy and love running around like hellions every time I want to record. And finally, I've been spending a good bit of my time preparing a dedicated workshop and recording area so that I can get away from the cats and all of the other noises inside of my house. Of course, that's going to take a bit of time, so my videos are still going to be a little bit sporadic. However, I will be posting updates on the community section of this channel as well as on my Discord server. In fact, I'm on there pretty much every day. You can find a link at the top of my channel, in the description, and I'll go ahead and put one in a pinned comment down below. All of that out of the way, let's talk about these dice, because the story behind these is kind of odd. First off, I picked these up at my local Walmart for $8, and they seem to be an exclusive product. I've not seen these listed for sale in any other stores, though I believe I've seen some resellers on eBay and Etsy. These are brought to us by Cardinal as well as Spin Master, and for those of you who don't know, there are a couple of companies which actually might be the same company under different names, or a couple that work together, or one of them is the subsidiary of another, or I don't know. I didn't do that much research on the companies behind these, but if I'm not mistaken, they're Canadian, hence the bilingual packaging, but you do see a lot of their stuff in the United States. Most of the things I've seen from them are board game related or puzzle related, so it makes sense that they would eventually release role-playing game dice. Now, before I go into any more detail about these dice, let's go ahead and crack them open. And here is what we have inside the box. We have 3 sets of dice in 3 different colors, as well as 3 dice bags, which seem to be made to hold just 1 dice set, which is kind of interesting. Just like the fact that my camera absolutely hates solid colored objects, so let me just move that out of the way in order to fix the autofocus. Now you know why I use this textured matte. But as I was saying, each of these velveteen bags is meant to hold a single dice set, which pretty much means these dice are being marketed as a way to get your gaming group started. Of course, most campaigns that I've been a part of involved more than 3 people, especially if you're counting the DM or GM, though if you're just getting started, you're probably using a starter set that includes its own dice, but I digress. You are still probably going to need more than the 3 sets presented here. And, well, apparently Cardinal thought about that because this is only one of the 2 different color lots. However, they did kind of drop the ball a bit because, yes, while technically there are 2 different lots, the only thing that changes between them is the red set. Both lots include the green and the blue set, so they kind of missed a trick there, because had they included a different trio of colors, I would have definitely gone to grab the other selection as well. Also, there may or may not be a 3rd version of this pack. I'm bringing this up because on Walmart.com they do have 3 different listings for these, one of which is cheaper than the $8 charged for these, but it has 0 pictures. So I don't know if that was just a clearanced version of these dice or what. It's weird. All of that being said, I actually feel 0 remorse over not going back to pick up the 2nd version of this kit, mainly due to the fact that technically I already have the other included dice set. In fact, I actually have this one as well. But I didn't have these 2, which is why I went with this kit for the review. Now, why do I have those dice? Well, The simple answer is that these are the exact same kinds of dice that you can pick up on sites like AliExpress and Banggood. A while back, I actually had a video covering a few sets of dice that I picked up on AliExpress, and in that time, I may or may not have gone a little bit overboard in ordering dice sets. What can I say? I'm a sucker for cheap dice. And to prove that I do indeed have this set, here it is. This is one of my many green dice sets. And for the curious, this seems to be the dice set included in the other lot. Now let's get these out of the way and talk about the dice in question. Now, to avoid confusion, I'm going to go ahead and point out that these are my AliExpress dice. However, these are the black and blue dice from the campaign dice collection. And the main thing I want to do right now is a weigh-in. I want to see if they are indeed made from the same materials and therefore weigh the same. Within a margin of error due to the tumble polishing process, of course. So let's go ahead and turn this on. Bring in my tray. Tear it out to 0. And let's get these dice on the scale. The total weight for this set is 27.2 grams, and let's bring those out unceremoniously, of course. Grab the other dice, and it is 27.9. So we're talking about a difference of 0.7 grams. That's pretty dang close to me. Now, the last thing I want to do before I call it on these dice is the so-called float test. I've taken a cup of water and dissolved so much salt in it that, as you can see, it can't really accept anymore. And that just so happens to be the point where dice will float. Now, the main purpose of this test is to see whether or not the die will spin freely without showing bias towards one side or another. And for the most part, it kind of does. It has been showing a little bit of a bias towards the 14 face, but I have noticed that if I reposition it manually, it doesn't really try to force its way over there, so a slight bias without heavy weighting. And in fact, I have encountered much worse balance in my dice from Chessex and other major manufacturers. Now, this is the one included with the campaign dice, so let's try the AliExpress die just out of curiosity. And what do you know? It's actually relatively fair. I thought it was going to be biased towards the 17, but I'm getting a decent mix in the faces that come up. Though, and there is indeed a slight 17 bias. Ever so slightly. However, let's see if I take the 17, place it on the bottom for the 4. Okay, it's not trying to force itself to reposition, so slight bias, but not terrible. And I should go ahead and take a moment to point out that this is the reason that I am very much against using Magic the Gathering Countdown D20s as your D20 in any other situation. Because if you do indeed have a bit of a weighted bias, you're either going to hit like a truck or a squeaky toy, because if you're biased towards one hemisphere, you're going to be getting all of your high numbers. But if you're biased towards the other hemisphere, you're only going to be getting your low numbers. It's not a fun thing. At least here, where there may be a bit of a bias, you're going to be rolling highs and lows in pretty much equal number. Now let's wrap things up by giving you my impressions. First off, I think these dice are perfectly adequate for the price. They're gonna roll okay. They're decent for a starter set of dice, but you will probably want to get something better on down the line. Fortunately, they are priced as such, and the fact that they're so readily available is even better. In fact, a lot of other retailers have also been getting into the dice game. Now, these dice hit store shelves in Walmart at around Christmas of last year, and I've been seeing them pop up in Target, GameStop, Hot Topic, and all kinds of other places. And what's interesting is many of them seem to use the same suppliers, so there's that. And I'm not gonna lie, seeing that when I'm working on this video kinda got me wondering where we're going to see dice pop up next. One of the places that I would love to see them is Five Below. And that's actually not without precedent. In fact, here are some dice that I actually picked up at Five Below several years ago. Now, of course, they weren't sold in a bag like this. Instead, you had to pay per die, but I think the price was somewhere between 25 cents and 75 cents per die, which puts it around the price that you'd be paying if you're going to dig through the spare dice bin at your local game store. And to be perfectly honest, these aren't half bad, though I don't know if that was a nationwide thing, or if just at that one location the manager decided to buy a big tub of math dice and then put it out for people to dig through. And I would love to see Five Below do that again, especially since you can get pretty much the exact same dice on AliExpress for about $1.25 per set. And that's just buying a single set. If Five Below decided to go through with this, they can bulk order from Alibaba, slap their own logo on it, and then put it on the counter for like $3 to $5. I know there would be quite a few takers. Now, if only we would start seeing dice sets in Dollar Tree, which I should go ahead and point out is not necessarily out of the cards, because like I mentioned at the start of this video, the campaign dice are from Cardinal, and they produce a lot of things specifically for Dollar Tree. They just have to be able to make a profit, so bulk ordering from Alibaba to get an entire set for under $1 is definitely feasible, though I'll admit seeing dice of this quality in Dollar Tree would be kind of boring for me. If I'm going into Dollar Tree, I want dice sets that look absolutely terrible, made for the least amount of money possible. Dice that look like these, with the mold lines, low quality plastic, and all of that jazz. These totally look like you just melted down green army men and then put them into dice molds. Though I really shouldn't be ragging on these dice too much due to their historical significance. These are actually some of the first dice that TSR produced back in the early 80s. These dice in particular came out of a D&D starter set from 1981 that I thrifted a while back for a whopping $2. Something tells me I can sell just that set for more than that. And don't even get me started on the build quality of the Holmes dice. Side note, if some of you knew how little I paid for these, you'd probably faint. Go ahead and leave a guess down in the comments. But I think I've gone on enough about cheap dice. The main takeaway is the fact that I think it's a decent set, I love the fact that it's available, and if you need dice or just want to start a dice collection, definitely go pick it up. Also, go ahead and let me know down in the comments if you want me to check out any of the dice lots that you can pick up from random Amazon sellers or some of the more well-known suppliers of bulk dice, like Wiz Dice. And on that note, until next time, this is your guy, Cly, signing off.